Welcome everyone to the Wealth Building with Real Estate Tax Savings video training. My name is Victoria McKenzie and I am so excited that you have taken the opportunity to learn a little bit more about how to invest in real estate, save on taxes, and build generational wealth for yourself and your family. So before we dive into this video recording here, I do have a disclaimer. Obviously, I am not an attorney or a tax professional. Any specific or legal tax questions need to be discussed further with a professional in that industry. So please understand this information is not tax or legal advice. Okay, let's jump into this. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Victoria McKenzie. A little bit about my background. I grew up in a very small town in Southwest Pennsylvania, and I was raised by a single mom. The reason why I bring that up with people quite often is because I was not educated about money or investing, how to buy real estate, how to save on taxes, how to use IRAs to grow wealth for my children. I did not learn any of that, and I was not surrounded by anyone who knew this information whenever I was growing up. I did go to college at Hofstra University where I received a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering, but I later moved into the real estate industry after my husband and I purchased our first home in January 2016. It was barely livable. It had broken windows. It didn't have a functioning kitchen, but we were so excited because it was ours. And I will never forget that we needed $7,000 in order to purchase that home for our down payment and closing costs. Between the two of us, we needed $7,000, and we truly did not know how we were going to make that happen. Thankfully, we were able to get the funds, while under contract, and we were both working full time. So we purchased the property. We renovated it ourselves using savings accounts, credit cards, and we finally realized that our home had this thing called equity in it. We had no idea. We had been in the house about 18 months. We were about ready to have our first child, and that's whenever we started thinking about selling the home. And we just had no idea what that entailed. But once we realized what we had access to from a standpoint of equity, we made a $65,000 tax-free payday. And I'm telling you, from that point forward, we were absolutely hooked on real estate. So today, my husband and I are first generation millionaires. We are chasing our dreams through real estate investing, coaching, businesses, and while doing all of that, we are also raising three incredible children. And I am just so passionate about educating and training and coaching and teaching other people about the power of real estate, because my life today would look completely different if it were not for real estate. So let's jump in. This is obviously why you are here, because you're interested in not paying the government all of these taxes. Okay, so the tax strategy we are going to be discussing today is cost segregation. This is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful tax saving strategies available. If you start looking into the term tax strategy, tax savings, if you Google that and you kind of get into a wormhole, you'll come to realize that there are many, many ways to save on taxes. But again, today we're going to be talking about cost segregation because I think it's one of the most powerful ways to save on taxes. Now, let me step back briefly. If you are on this training, you likely are earning as a household at least $100,000 to $150,000 a year. This is the segment that it is most applicable for a household earning somewhere in that number. As mentioned, just as a minimum, if your household is earning $250,000 or $500,000, this is so important, and I really hope that you prioritize this in everything that we discuss and continue to learn about this strategy because it will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, cost segregation. We are going to break down two different examples. This first example is on a fourplex purchase. Okay, that is a 4-unit building. I found this property on the multi-list, which for those of you who are not real estate agents, the multi-list is the database that licensed realtors have access to. That is where they input all of their listings. So for those of you, again, who aren't realtors, basically what I'm saying is this property that I found is a real property. It was listed for sale. It was available to the public on sites like Zillow and Realtor. So this is a real property. 4-unit building for $625,000. I'm using a down payment of 25%. It could be a little less, it could be a little more. It's really going to depend on the lending institution that you are using. But for argument's sake, and for this example, 25%, which is $156,250. That is the number, that is the cash that you would have to bring to the closing table in order to purchase this property. Okay. Cost segregation. So we're breaking down this example as if you have an earned income of over $100,000 in your household. This specific example is conducive to someone who's maybe earning around $250,000. And what I'm showing you is if your household earns $250,000 of active earned income, okay, if you buy this one property, you go and you buy this one property, this is how you're going to save on taxes. So, cost segregation. This is a different way to depreciate the asset. A lot of us have heard the term depreciation. Cost segregation is a way that you are able to break down the property into separate asset classes, ultimately giving you a higher percentage of depreciation. Okay. So there's a lot of numbers here, and I want to keep this as simple as possible, but I also wanted to give you all of the facts. So whenever you have a cost segregation, whenever you want to utilize this method on your tax return, you do have to hire a professional that will conduct the cost segregation study. Depending on the property, it could cost anywhere between $1,000 and upwards of $10,000 if you have, a 30-unit apartment building. For argument's sake, this is probably going to be somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000. You will have to pay to have this cost segregation study done. That's what's going to give you these numbers over here. We're working with estimates based on averages, okay? But you will hire a specialist. They will do the cost segregation. They will give you the hard numbers. If you are someone who you purchased an investment property maybe a year or two ago because you wanted to get into real estate investing, or you just knew that real estate investing was a way to help build wealth and save on taxes, but you haven't done this, that is totally okay. You have up to 3 years from the date of purchase to have a cost segregation study done and have that applied towards your tax liability. Okay. So you hire someone, they do the cost segregation, they're going to break all of this down. You have personal property, land improvements, and building structure. Here is what you're seeing the IRS has deemed its average useful life. Okay. If we take all of these numbers, you hire a professional, they're going to break this down. Typically, a residential property gets depreciated over 27 and a half years. So if you did a standard depreciation schedule, you would be able to reduce your active earned income by $48,000. Okay. So if your household makes $250,000, you could reduce it by $48,000, ultimately leaving you around $200,000 worth of tax liability. Now, that's not going to really impact you. You're still going to be in that 24% tax bracket. So this is where things get really cool. You are able to utilize something called bonus depreciation. Bonus depreciation is a legal way with the IRS tax law that will allow you to take the full amount of personal property, right? So 125,000. So we can take the full amount of the personal property, the full amount of the land improvements, 93,750, which gives you 218,750. And then your building structure has to stay on the 27.5 year schedule, which is totally fine. That's $17,000 roughly every single year. So when you add all of those up, when you utilize bonus depreciation, okay, you go from reducing your tax liability by $48,000 to reducing your tax liability by $235,000. That is a huge impact. Huge, huge, huge. Okay. So let's just simplify this. My husband and I combined make $250,000. He makes $150,000 and I make $100,000. It does not matter what we do or how we earn the money, but we bring in $250,000 into our household. Okay. Towards the end of the year, October, November, December, I'm like, okay, we are going to have a massive tax liability on our hands because we would ultimately be in the highest tax bracket, which would be 24%. So we would owe the government roughly $60,000, whether you pay that out of your paycheck or you pay it in quarterly installments or you pay it at the end of the year. You would be writing a check for $60,000 to the government, which I personally do not want to do. So it's getting towards the end of the year. We say, holy heck, we need to go buy a property. We identify this property. We come up with the closing costs, so the down payment and the little bit of cash additional for closing costs. Maybe we use a HELOC that we have on our home. Maybe we have it in a savings or an investment account. Maybe we ask a family member for a short-term loan. Ultimately, pulling that $150,000 or $160,000 in cash, finding that is going to save us astronomically in taxes. Okay. We make $250,000. We buy this fourplex. We use bonus depreciation and cost segregation, and we literally wipe out our income tax liability. Okay? $0 gone because we bought this asset. So now the really cool part is, okay, we just saved all that money on taxes and we're able to also gain an asset at the same time. All right. So I added an additional example because I know not every household is making north of $250,000. So I wanted to do kind of a more realistic, or shall I just say a different example. So this would be a single family home that you purchase for $200,000, 25% down payment. And then this is the same exact structure. You can look at all of these numbers. Again, you would have to hire someone to do cost segregation. But if you took the standard schedule, you would save about $14,000 a year. If you use the bonus depreciation, though, you can again take all of the personal property, all of the land, and the partial building improvements. Okay? $65,000 if you are a household earning just over $100,000, $100,500 puts you in the highest tax bracket, 24%. So you could either pay the government 24%, or if you go find a single family home, that cash flows, that is a good investment, roughly around $200,000 purchase price, and you utilize the bonus depreciation, you will reduce your active earned income. You will be able to take $65,000 off of that active earned income. This will take you down to $35,000 in active earned income because you're allowed to take these pass-through losses, which puts you at a tax rate of 12%. Okay, so instead of paying $24,000 to the government, you will pay them $4,200. And again, you just purchased an asset that someone else is going to pay for. It's going to appreciate, and ideally, it will also cash flow. Guys, this is the strategy that allows the wealthiest people in the world to not pay taxes, number one, and to build wealth through real estate. Okay, they are acquiring these assets that save them on taxes. They also appreciate, they put tenants in them. The tenant is paying their mortgage. So they essentially are saving on taxes and building wealth through the real estate, the asset itself. So what happens after the first year? You buy the property, you utilize the bonus depreciation, you pay $0 on taxes. Again, these are all speculatory numbers, but you do that in the first year, you gain an asset. Now what happens? So this property, as I mentioned, I pulled from the multi-list. Whenever I did this presentation a few weeks ago, I was looking for a property, and this was the second one that I found, and it actually worked. So let's take a look at this property. Again, it was listed for $625,000. They had all of the rents listed here. I believe it was pretty much already occupied, so let's just call it a turnkey property. So the gross rental income on a monthly basis is just over $6,900. PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So I calculated this utilizing a 20-year amortization schedule or a 20-year loan, because typically for investment loans, they only have a maximum amortization of 20 years. But again, you may find a longer term product. And I also used current market interest rates. So I calculated that. I had the taxes from the listing, and then I used my best judgment for the insurance. This right here, this is called vacancy, maintenance, and expenses. So whenever you own a property, you obviously have to account for these things. It's roughly 20%. I calculated that out. So the net cash flow after everything was right around $2,000. In my opinion, this was actually a fantastic investment property. So whenever you take the 2,000 divided by 4, each unit is net cash flowing about $500 a month. So that's pretty cool. Again, this property that you bought wiped out your $60,000 tax liability, and now you're making $2,000 a month in net cash flow from that same building. So if you're someone who looks at your return on investment, maybe you have money sitting in a high interest yield savings account or another investment account, stocks, bonds, whatever it may be, mutual funds or CDs. If you look at a return on that investment on an annual basis, how much your money is growing, right? How much money went in and how much it grew. This property, based on $165,000 of invested funds, because we had our down payment and our closing costs, compared to how much money it is bringing in, right? It's going to be the $2,000 every month times 12, so that's roughly $24,000. And that gives you almost a 15% return on your money. So your cash being invested in this asset, real estate, is earning you between 14 and 15% annually. So that's pretty cool. Year one, you use the depreciation, save $60,000 on taxes. Year 2 through 5, you're going to cash flow on the property. And then on year 5, what you can do is a cash out refinance. Okay? So let's talk about what those numbers look like. In year 5, based on an average throughout the country, every real estate appreciates on average roughly 5%. So in 5 years, that property will be worth roughly $800,000. What you can do is you can go to the bank and say, hey, bank, I have this asset. It's been performing very well. I would like to get an appraisal on it. And then I would like to take out a new loan. I would like to refinance, and I would like to take out that loan for about 80% of the property's value. Bank's going to say, okay, sure. They're going to send someone out. They're going to do an appraisal, and they're going to say, again, it's worth about $800,000. At that point in time, you will have approximately $236,000 of tax-free equity in the property. So let's go back. This building right here, okay? So how does that happen? You purchase the asset, and again, every year it naturally grows in value. At the same time, you have tenants who are paying you rent every single month, and they're paying down this principal on your loan. They're paying that down for you every single month. So property value goes up, loan amount goes down, and in year 5, you can have access to $236,000 completely tax-free. Debt is not taxable. So you pull out $236,000 and you can do whatever the heck you want with it. You can buy more real estate. You can use it to fund a certain lifestyle, to pay yourself through your company, whatever it may be. $236,000 cash free. In addition to that, our cash flow, this property was making us $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month times 12 months is $24,000 a year. And in 5 years, that property would make you roughly $120,000 in net cash flow. Again, we are making some assumptions here. We are not accounting for increases in rents, increases in expenses, taxes, insurance, all that kind of thing. I just want you guys to use this as an example to open your mind of the possibility and the power of owning real estate, because it goes so much further than, oh, I own an investment property and my tenants are a pain in the butt and I constantly have broken toilets, okay? It goes so much further than that. And once you can get that out of your head and see the power behind this and how it can drastically change your life, that is what I want this to do, okay? So rough numbers, you made $120,000 throughout those 5 years with your cash flow. Then you get access to the $236,000 in tax-free equity. So in 5 years, you have about $350,000 that you have earned from this one single property. Pretty cool, right? So what happens now whenever you do this over and over and over again? You can offset your earned income. The cash invested in the property combats losing its value due to inflation. So if you're someone who you and your spouse are high income earners and you just have money sort of sitting in a checking account or sitting in a savings account, or honestly even in, I guess, in a high yield savings account, around 5%, you're kind of just breaking even against inflation. But the point is, if you have cash sitting around, that's one of the worst decisions you can make. So whenever you're ready, you can refinance out, take the tax-free money. You can buy more properties. If you started buying investment properties and maybe you don't like the asset class, you can utilize a 1031 exchange to avoid the taxes or depreciation recapture. And then, like I said, if you're earning around $250,000 as a household, instead of paying the government $60,000, go buy an investment property. Okay? So all of that is super cool, super impactful, but there is a catch. The government, or the IRS, has this rule in place where the only way to take those losses and that bonus depreciation, right, any passive losses, is if you have what's called real estate professional status, also known as REPS. REPS is something that, again, if you start learning a little bit more about this, you will hear that phrase used often. But in order to utilize this strategy, you have to have REPS. Now, obviously, I am a licensed realtor, so the majority of my activities, not only as a realtor, but as a real estate investor in the companies that we own and operate, I spend 98% of my time in real estate related activities. Most licensed realtors are going to qualify for REPS status. However, the reason why I mentioned that this training is not only applicable to real estate agents, licensed agents, is because, as an example, there is someone in your house, whether it be the husband or the wife, whomever it is, and they earn $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000, and the other spouse stays at home. Okay? The spouse that stays at home can spend 15 hours per week, because these are the three qualifications that the IRS deems necessary to have rep status. More than half of the services you provide are in real estate. 750 hours per year or 15 hours per week are your activities are in real estate and material participation. So again, breaking this down, more than half of the services you provide must be in real estate. So this is going to be a little more difficult if both people in the household work a full-time job, right? Your husband is a dentist and you are a teacher. There's no way that you are going to be able to work a full-time salary job 40 hours a week and then work more than 40 hours a week in real estate. And what does that look like? Managing your rental properties, attending trainings, webinars, talking to your bookkeeper, screening new tenants, putting up Zillow listings, coordinating for photographers, coordinating contractors. My point is, it would be very hard to have a full-time job and also be classified as a full-time reps. The caveat to this is, if you and your spouse don't both work full-time jobs, maybe, again, the husband is a dentist and the wife is a stay-at-home mom. That is easy breezy, okay? There is a high likelihood that she could spend 15 hours a week managing the rental portfolio, okay? So more than half of her services, that would be her only job. So it would qualify for more than half, 15 hours per week. Document that on, a Google Drive or Google Calendar. Again, pretty easy. I listed out some of those activities. Material participation. She and her husband can both contribute to this. Maybe on Sundays they go and have coffee and discuss what their cash flow looks like, or maybe they discuss their upcoming tax bills, or maybe they have a call together with their accountant. Whatever that is, they can both participate. Pretty easy to check those off. Again, only one spouse has to qualify for reps in order to take advantage of these pass-through losses. Any household with a combined income of over $100,000 should be taking advantage of this. Again, this is a very detailed IRS tax strategy. I am really just glazing over it. But if this is something that you think makes sense and might apply to your household, I highly recommend you having a deeper conversation and deeper understanding of this. Okay, so, what is your purpose? Why are you doing this? Why do you wake up every day? Why do you go to work? Or why do you wake up every day and take care of your kids, right? What do you truly want out of life? And I think this is so important. And I put these numbers out here again because not everything is about money. And I don't want to come across that everything is about money or money is all we think about. What is most important to us is having the ability to spend time as a family and spend time with our children, to have experiences together, to make sure that, God forbid, something happened to my husband and I, that our properties and our accounts and our trust and all of our legal assets are properly structured to make things as easy as possible for them. I brought up that I was raised by a single mom. And my mom didn't know about any of this. She worked so hard and so tirelessly. And finally, towards the, second half of my life, once I was about 20 or 25 years old, my mom started earning a very good income. She had a very great job. She had a really good retirement. But she was still working full time in 2021 whenever she passed away very suddenly. So she was only 63 years old, And all of that hard work to pay into a retirement account she never even got access to. She didn't even get to use it. She didn't get to enjoy it. So, again, this isn't about the money. It's about having the ability to spend time with your family how you choose. And to be completely honest, that requires money most of the time. So, just putting this out there as information for you to possibly consider reevaluating how you and your household views money and as a way to make money compound. So, my last kind of thought on this is really compounding that one property. Okay. You buy that property. We talked about cash flow. What would happen if, with that cash flow that you received, you paid your children? Okay. Each child can then have money put into a Roth IRA. That Roth IRA can then grow tax free. Whenever they're 65 years old, they will have access, or they could potentially have access to millions of dollars. This is, again, another strategy, a tax strategy and wealth building strategy that we personally implement. If we continue to put $5,000 a year for every child into their Roth IRA, by the time each of our children are 65 years old, they will have over $7 million in tax-free money. $7 million in tax-free money. So imagine what you could accomplish over the next 10 years if you bought one property every year. What would your life look like? What would your children's life look like? What would your retirement look like with your spouse? Could you retire earlier? Could you start envisioning those dream trips and taking months abroad in Europe, or going for a month out to Utah or Wyoming, or spending a month in Florida? Whatever that is, whatever you want for your life, maybe buying that dream car or that dream motorcycle. What could this do for your life? And I encourage you to begin envisioning your life and thinking about your life 10 to 20 years from now. So many of us are caught up in what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. We're so consumed by all of the media. We're consumed by our day-to-day tasks. We're consumed by the laundry and the dishes and the soccer games and the daily commute. But I encourage you to set aside time and really think about what you want your life to look like in the next 10 to 20 years. So my challenge to you is to carve out time in the next 30 days to take action. And what can that action look like? I encourage you to sit down with your spouse or your significant other, because to me, there's nothing more impactful than being on the same page with your life partner. Carve out time in the next 30 days to have these conversations. Talk to each other. Dream. Envision. Talk about goals. Talk about aspirations. Talk about what you want your day-to-day life to look like. Are you sick of driving to work and commuting and working, 10, 12, 15 hours a day? Do you want to stay home with your kids? Or if you're a stay-at-home mom, do you want to do more in the workplace? Whatever it may be, sit down, have the conversation. Start talking about your financial goals. How much capital do you have access to? How much liquid capital do you have available to take advantage of this tax strategy? Is there someone in your household that's going to be able to apply for rep status, to qualify for rep status, real estate professional status? Talk about that. Is this even a possibility for your household? So I encourage you to take the next 30 days, map out some time where you're going to have these conversations and put together action. I truly hope you enjoyed this training. I would love to stay connected with you. Here on this QR code, you will find more resources that I have put together, teaching people how to increase their income, increase their financial future, build wealth for their family, save on taxes, and really love the life that they have is something I'm so passionate about. And I teach people how to do that through real estate. So if you want to stay connected, scan the QR code here. I have additional resources. If you would like to schedule a deep dive call with me, we can do that. That is one of my favorite things to do, to help people get aligned, come up with a plan, and how to implement that plan so that 10 to 20 years from now, you are exactly where you want to be. I hope you enjoyed this, and you know where to find me.